You are everything beautiful, and we are in awe of your brilliance. So now we've started the main show. We are here. Okay, the main reason we are here, rather. How you effortlessly break down seemingly complex cybersecurity terms in a rather simple and enjoyable way is inspiring. How you continue to raise the bar and even uplift minds in your industry is iconic. The kind that will stay evergreen in the lives you continue to touch positively. Please share some highlights of how you began your creative journey as a cybersecurity expert and coach.
Thank you so much for that very interesting question and very kind words you shared. I really appreciate that I am seeing, and the contributions that myself and my team are making is recognized. Thank you so much. On how my journey started, I didn't sit back and say to myself, oh my God, I want to be a cybersecurity professional. Very far from it. As a matter of fact, I had been told by my parents for many years that, I should build a career in medicine and be a medical doctor. So for a long time, it was a borrowed dream. Let me put it that way, because I didn't realize it was a borrowed dream until I found my own. So I was living in this bubble. I really wanted to be a medical doctor because my parents had told it for so long, until I finished secondary school, which some people out of Africa will call it high school. I finished high school and my parents asked me to take a gap year before I go into university. In retrospect, I think my parents asked me to take that gap year because of financial reasons. But yeah, I took the gap year. And we also lived in a hood, let me put it that way. So there were lots of there was a lot of teenage pregnancies at the time. I mean, I have so many friends that got pregnant. So my parents were also guarding against me being around the house and becoming idle and falling into such a situation. So my parents wanted to keep me engaged. So they said, you know what, don't while away time here, go and attend computer lessons in this place, And I was attending computer classes in that particular location, and that was where I got introduced to computers for the first time. But far past knowing how to use Microsoft Word, which was where I started off from, and the other very basic stuff, I was introduced to programming. My God, I felt alive. I was excited every time to go there. Like, I had never experienced that kind of joy and freedom and creative power. I was able to make things happen on my computer, and I knew this was what I wanted to do. So my admission letter came in to go study medicine. I knew this had to change. So I didn't have a computer at the time to make a PowerPoint presentation to my parents. So what I did was I bought cardboards, cut them into slides, and wrote on them as a way of making presentation to my parents. Now, to give you some perspective as well, my parents are not graduates of any university. So my parents didn't go to school like that. They just went to school up to secondary school level, for my mom, for example. So my parents are not exactly as educated as I am now. They're not, So now telling them that I am not going to do medicine anymore like you wanted. I'm going to do tech. And you don't have any examples around me of people who did this and are doing great. So I can imagine as a parent myself right now how such a big decision that was for them, because there was no model, there was no reference point for us in our area, in our location, for us to say, okay, XYZ explored this path and is doing great for themselves. There was no reference. All what they had was what their daughters, what they could see in their daughters' eye, the spark and passion. And the truth is, you cannot outdo anyone who is passionate about the work they do. So they could see that passion, and they knew that I was going to excel anyway. So they had to trust me, and they accepted for me to turn down that admission and go study advanced diploma in software engineering. So I started off as a software engineer, and I got a scholarship to do my first degree in the school in the United Kingdom. It was IT and business information systems. I took that scholarship. I did my degree. I came out with the first class. I came back, my sponsors were so excited. I came back and I had the first class. So I got another scholarship sponsorship from them again to go back to the UK and do a master's in IT management. So it was during my master's in IT management that I got in contact with cybersecurity. It was an elective course called cryptography that I was told, this is very difficult. And I'm like, I want something that's challenging, and I took on that that elective, and that was the beginning. From there on, I did a lot of personal development, a lot of self-learning. I got my lecturer at the time, who is now the head of the Research Institute for Cybersecurity in the UK, to mentor me. He was a man, and that was how I started off, and I grew in leaps and bounds. And I can't tell you this enough. I absolutely love what I do. So every day it feels like I'm having fun. I'm sure you can see that in my smile and everything. So this is my not so straight beginning or story about how I kicked off my career, but it's just the back story around how I started off, how I had access, and why I'm also so big on exposing women and girls, young girls, to even have that access and see if this is something they want, before and make informed decisions.
Yeah, wow. I was just here shouting wow, but my mic was off. So thank God it would have intruded on everything you were saying. I was just shouting wow in every sentence you made. That was so inspiring and very relatable. Like, your values and your whole story connects to what we stand for in terms of waking up every morning to do what you love. That's fulfillment. That's priceless. It's not something you can go and purchase in the market. It's not something that you can just gain a degree for. It's beyond what someone can explain. Like, see the joy, see the glow as you were speaking. The passion was so evident. And let me just quickly share mine. So there was a period in my life. I'm a writer and a poet as well. And writing is that thing too that makes me excited, that you can wake me up anytime in the morning and I'm excited to do. Okay, so there was a period I had to like move into the banking sector, and I woke up every morning not sure I was happy to go to work. So at least I've tasted both sides. I've been in the shoes where I'm doing my passion, and I've been in the shoes where I'm not. So I really can relate to what you're saying about being excited about doing what you love. And that's the community we are trying to raise right now. We want to build a new generation of people and one of the reasons, okay, like your story is so interesting that I'm even going deeper, right? But let me quickly round up. One of the reasons we are doing what we are doing is because we want, one of the reasons rather, that people do not really pursue their passion, especially maybe in Africa and places that are still developing, is because maybe their passion cannot really pay the bills. Like what you said, your parents just had to trust you and trust the passion in your eyes and all. But in some occasions, people are not that lucky. People be like, are you sure that will pay the bills? Are you sure poetry will pay the bills? Are you sure this thing that makes your heart beat will pay the bills? And so there's nothing like, we really hope to build that world where people can, and you are already building the world for yourself and building it for others as well. So thank you. Let me not go on, or else we'll not finish this conversation. All right. Yeah, so your platform does not only empower mentally, but also financially, just leading to what I just said now. Does not just empower mentally, but also financially. And please share the inspiration behind Cyber Girls.
Okay, so the inspiration really just came from my own realities, practicing cybersecurity in this part of the world. I found, interestingly, because I had been around, I was in the boys club for so long. I mean, what I've just shared around my story means that I've been in technology since I was about 18 years old, right? So I had been in the boys club for so long that I didn't realize, that every time I look around, I was maybe the only girl. I was maybe maximum one of two girls, So over time, I started realizing that, okay, so why are there not enough women, doing this work, this exciting stuff, something I'm enjoying so much, And I started to closely notice what the challenges were. I started paying attention because, again, remember that my story just means I was also immune to certain things. What I mean by that is some of the barriers women face, I didn't exactly face them. I remember, for example, my dad looking at me one day. I was 7 years old. He said to me, "In you, I have 10 sons." I didn't exactly fully understand what that meant until I started getting exposed to the world and seeing how different the girls were raised from boys in this part of the world, and how that didn't give women confidence to go for certain things, or set aside certain practices or certain careers for men, that girls shouldn't venture into. Once I started overhearing certain conversations, I started seeing younger people facing these challenges, and I was like, oh my God, these things are real. And I also look back at my life and, started evaluating what were my challenges. that were so normal that I didn't see them as, as roadblocks. So I started internalizing all of that experience, started retrospecting quite a lot. And I started answering the questions of why there were few women. So I sat back after answering those questions and said, so what can I do as a person to drive a collective effort? Because this is not something Confidence Staveley can do. What can I do to spark up pockets of conversations, of work to improve this inclusion issue? And the numbers started popping up. I'll give an example. The World Bank says that women make 50% of the population in Africa. But do you know that only 9%, women only contribute 9% of the workforce in cybersecurity? 9%, which means that 91% of the industry is male, which means if you find cybersecurity professionals, only 1 out of 10 will be female. Do you know how mind-blowing that is? So I started seeing more reasons to want to do something about it. And the truth is, we can talk all we want about diversity, but if we don't have women who are skilled to take up those roles, we will continue in these, in this particular place we are in. So I wanted to set I wanted to create more skilled women, so the opportunities in the industry can be taken by these skilled women. So, put aside policies that do not support women in workplaces, but I wanted to make sure that employers do not have excuses not to hire women. I wanted to make sure that women were advantaged with the skills, the access to the tools, and the resources to grow. And that was where CyberGirl started off from. So when we have this pool of talent that are female, naturally employers would want to hire the best. And we don't want to be hired because we are women. We want to be hired because we're actually the best for the job. So that is where grooming these girls to become the best for the job birthed CyberGirls. And I can't tell you how life-changing it's been. We are currently moving from 7 countries to 22 African countries, and the stories have been absolutely mind-blowing. We have a girl in South Africa who presented to the World Bank recently, an alumni, and she said that she experienced a 450% increase in her income as a result of going through this training and coming out and getting a job. So you see, we then are able to use this tool as a socioeconomic development tool, but also protecting innovation that happens in Africa and ensuring that it's cyber safe. So CyberGirl became a multifaceted problem-solving angle to the challenges in my industry. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to do this work and to play this role alongside the amazing people that support me in my team, internally and externally.
This is awesome. Like, speaking about real-time impact, sometimes you hear talks or you read about talks, but when the person is explaining it, it's not really exactly, like, you can't really feel or hear that impact as much as what you read. But this time around, like, there are evidences, there are people that, like, your works are touching real-time people and not just like people will say audio people or audio money. All right, yeah, this is awesome. What does art mean to you? I don't just want to comment more because I would just keep pouring out. Like, I'm really excited about this interview already, and we cannot wait to share this with the world. What does art mean to you in your own way? What does art mean to you?
So I think that art is a vehicle to communicate imagination, creative imagination. And why for me I see it as a vehicle is because you've commented earlier on about how I use my platform to simplify things. And the reason I'm able to do that is my creative ability, which I will call art. So it's a vehicle, and it can be a vehicle for many things, but for me, it's a vehicle to convey cybersecurity best practices. I will use art in many forms, in still images, in videos, in memes, in comics. Just think about it. For me, that's why there are no boundaries, there are no, for me, except for unethical stuff, but there are no boundaries for me to use art to then convey what I believe is education or advocacy through my platforms to be able to drive messaging around cybersecurity and around tech in general. So I see art, if I was to use one word to describe art, it would be that it's a vehicle.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. Yeah. We are grateful to have your body special issue with the theme Right, in celebration of inspiring women in the creative industry, and also to mark the 2023 International Women's Day. We understand how certain stereotypes, cultures, sentiments, and faulty orientations have stood as subtle roadblocks for women to thrive boundlessly. Have you ever encountered any form of gender-based discrimination? Any quick tips for women who may have been victims of severe circumstances?
I would say I've had subtle impact or subtle experiences with them. Maybe sometimes I'm not exactly the party being talked about, but I want to talk more around what I have experienced as a result of doing the work I do to help other people. I think that is going to really shine the light on how present a challenge this still is. I mean, you would think that all the conversations we're having around diversity and inclusion is going to, especially from the gender lens, is going to really, or has really changed a lot of people, and people are accepting of certain things. But you'll find out that there's still so much work to do. And I'll give you one story. Last month on Twitter, a young man tweeted at me. And I'll give a bit of the genesis of that whole thread back and forth. The genesis was I had openly stated on Twitter that although I'm open to supporting young people, you know, coming into cybersecurity and all of that, but I wasn't going to give as much effort to, I was going to give disproportionately more effort to women, you know, than to anyone else, because of course, I've just shared a stat which shows there's a very strong need, right? So I said I was going to dedicate more resources, way more resources to helping females. And it didn't sit well with a lot of people, but this one person came at me very, very strongly. And these were his words, me paraphrasing, but not far from what he said. He said that women can do anything they want and be anything they want without anyone stopping them. But women will do better in industries where emotional people are required. And that is different from cybersecurity, where able-bodied men are more required in cybersecurity. And for me, this was very telling because this person is a young person. So I was expecting this sort of thinking to come from an older person, like maybe a man in his 50s will say that to me, and maybe it won't hit such a chord, or it won't strike such a chord as it did with this young person. But knowing this person cannot be up to 30 and telling me this also meant patriarchy is alive. The stereotypes are very much alive. And these stereotypes are strongly hitting our girls. I mean, when I open up the thread again and ask girls to share what their experiences have been, the stories that were shared under that thread by girls around stereotypes and discrimination was again mind-blowing. So you see, the challenge is there. People feel like cybersecurity or certain things in tech should be taken up by women, but that's an awful lie. One that they have told women long enough for us to believe, you know what, maybe our brains are not even caught up, are not even structured to really do technical things, but that's a lie. You know what, that's a lie, and I can tell very strongly that's a lie. I'm taking myself out of the equation. We currently are using Zoom for this interview. The technology behind Zoom is called voice over IP. It was invented by a woman. Her name is Dr. Marion. She has over 200 patents to her name. Without Dr. Marion, who is a woman today, we will not be enjoying this interview. We will not be enjoying FaceTime. We will not be able to enjoy WhatsApp video calls or WhatsApp calls. That was a woman's invention. Today we use Wi-Fi. We use Bluetooth easily. You can't imagine your life without this technology. The things that led up to that technology is a patent a woman filed on a piece of technology that led to these inventions. So you see, women have played very major roles. And until we are able to educate more of the populace around how these stereotypes are in the way of women seeing this as an opportunity and how this shortchanges us, you know, from being able to achieve more as a collective, then we will know, we will be able to get more people on our side around making sure that these stereotypes lose their voice, and rather we're able to enable women see that they have a place in the field of tech.
Wow, I sincerely just learned one or two right now. This one is now beyond an interview. I know interviews you learn a lot, but this is more like a TED talk and more like a master class, because I wasn't even aware that a woman that is behind the brain of Zoom and then other major technologies. That's awesome and that's very enlightening. Thank you so much for sharing that. Like I said, let me not move in deeper. We love how you are raising a new generation of Africans in your industry who can confidently compete in the global market. Please share any quick tips for creatives battling with self-doubt.
I know self-doubt is a thing. I mean, we call it many fancy names. Right now, we can call it what's that one? There's one fancy name they call it. Imposter syndrome, you know, we call it all these really fancy names, but it's still alive. And you know what's very intriguing for me? It's more alive for women than it is for men. In honor of IWD, a week ago, I wanted to share something that will rise above the noise, because on the 8th of March, everyone is talking about women. So I wanted to, you know, just chip this in for women ahead of time. And one of the key things I said as my last tip in that post I put out on LinkedIn was that women should go for jobs, you know, go for jobs you're 40 to 50% qualified for. You see, men will do the same thing, but we women, we wait till we're 80% qualified for that job to go for it. And in that post, I was saying that, you know what, that job description may be HR's wish list, but a man is naturally designed, it's naturally, or rather, has been conditioned to just go for things, you know, whether or not they believe themselves that they can do that thing, you know, they will just take it up and take the bull by the horn. But we as women have been conditioned. So self-doubt really, really impacts women more than men, in my experience. I mean, I stand corrected, but in my experience, that has been the thing. So if I was to advise anybody, you know, going under the weight of self-doubt, I would say that first and foremost, you may need to come into a place of enough self-awareness to see the things that you can do very well without necessarily waiting for perfection. And then begin to tell yourself those things repeatedly. Because I find that most people who suffer from the weight of self-doubt are people who, I'm going to use this word, see themselves finish. You have a natural ability. You have certain things that come to you naturally, but because they come to you and you've been known to have those things, you don't accept them as a strength anymore. You feel like you take them for granted, like everybody else has that thing. Meanwhile, you have that special ability. So I believe that accepting these skills, these things to yourself over and over, does help you begin to believe, oh yeah, I can actually, I'm the it, you know, I can do this, you know, I am able to, you know. And I also believe very strongly in the power of affirmations. So if you're suffering with self-doubt, please use affirmations, keep track and journal your wins. People don't do this. I say that even coming from a religious perspective, we read a story about, for example, David and Saul. When David needed to tell Saul that he can fight Goliath, he didn't tell him just anything. He told him the things he had done, which meant he was journaling how he killed the bear with his bare hands, how he killed the lion with his bare hands. So that journaling builds your confidence to be able to take on the next best thing. And he said, I mean, if you're going religious as well, he said that person, that Goliath, will also be just like the lion I killed. He's relating the journaling of his successes to the challenge in front of him. So I find that journaling is also a very great tip to rise above self-doubt, and that self-awareness that allows you to assert and stay in your place of power and grow your place of power in your competence, while of course humbly opening up your mind to learning more and increasing your skills in the areas where you may be deficient or not exactly great enough. I think is a key thing that has helped me as a person.
That's awesome, sincerely. Do you feel creatives in developed countries are at advantage to those in developing countries? This is a tricky question.
Yes, it's indeed a very tricky question. I won't say that creatives in this part of the world, in a developing country, would be on the same pedestal as a developed country. And I'll give you one reason why I say that. The mobility challenges that people in developing countries face are enormous. And as a global world, whenever things are looked at from the global sense, because of that lack of mobility and many other challenges, there are systemic challenges that make it difficult for us to be at par in terms of visibility, not in terms of talent, but in terms of visibility, for example, with people in developed countries. One of those factors, again, is mobility. And I'll give you an example. I was a industry keynote speaker at a major conference in Canada, which meant I was the high point of that event. My speech was the high point of that event. This event, I was booked and paid to speak in Canada and in Italy. I applied for my visa and couldn't get one after 4 months of waiting. I don't know anyone else in any other part of the developed country that waits 4 months for the visa to come out. The organization that was hiring me to come speak had to pay for an immigration lawyer in the country where I was coming to speak at, for me to get my visa out after waiting 4 months, which meant I got the invitation, took action quickly, but still had to take an immigration lawyer in that country to file for me to come in. You know what happened? I only spent 2 days in that country, just 2 days. But it took 4 months for my visa to come out, plus an immigration officer, lawyer, a top immigration lawyer being hired. So imagine how much disadvantage I am if the cost is the only reason. If I was put side by side with a counterpart in another part of the world, and they consider the cost of bringing me in, aside paying my booking fee, which that person also going to charge the booking fee, but adding on to the stress of hiring and the cost of hiring an immigration lawyer, you put that side by side with someone who needs that, who has a passport that can take them to many parts of the world. Who do you think they will naturally hire if my skill set wasn't very rare, if my abilities were not very rare? Definitely that other person. So you see, if you look at it from that perspective, you then begin to understand what the challenges are and how these challenges impact our global competitiveness. I mean, thank God for COVID that made it so normal for us to be able to collaborate virtually and get work done. But just think about even the opportunities we lose out from that do not allow for collaboration over virtual means. So there are challenges, there are many challenges, but the skills are very, very high in this part of the world as well. People are braving the challenge with resilience to build their skill set and really stand out.
Wow. Oh, wow, Confidence. Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to say I really love your vulnerability and your truth. Like you're just pouring out and sharing it the way it is. No refinements or anything. Every creative out there in Africa can relate to these struggles, can relate to these things. Thank you so much for that. You continue to thrive in both national and international spaces. What would you consider most fulfilling about your creative journey?
That's an interesting question to ask. I think that one of the most fulfilling things about my creative journey would be how much visibility I enjoy. And I would say visibility from the perspective of not how much it pays me, because let's not pretend about it. Being visible does pay the bills, right? But yeah, it's how much people I'm able to impact that I do not know. It's how much people I'm able to educate whose names I do not know. So while I can do a lot of work directly changing the lives of certain girls or certain people, there's how much you can directly do. But my strong sense of fulfillment comes from the visibility to be able to reach way more people than I can ever know, than I can ever fully comprehend. So for me, that's very fulfilling, and I'm privileged to be able to stand as a person that represents possibilities for women, that people can look at me and think to themselves, oh my God, if you can do it, I can do it. So for me, that's very fulfilling. And just even knowing that there will be more women or men that will be able to make that assertion, that whose names I will never know, but my life has been able to make them see that there can be excellence, and they can be global in their industries.
Yeah, I sincerely think that that's priceless, because many of the interviews we've had, especially with blacks, one of the things they said they struggled with while growing is they didn't really have an image to look up to. Like, you see so many whites in your industry that are doing fabulously, that are doing great, but there's nothing as special or as fulfilling as well looking at someone on TV that is a black woman like Confidence, a young black woman at that, not even like maybe someone very advanced in age. You know that, okay, this person has gone through so many things, but you see this person is this young and has achieved all these things. It's a great motivation. It's a realistic motivation to say, hey, I can do this too. So yeah, thank you so much for that. We
Thank you.
understand balancing work time and rest time is a struggle for many creatives, including me. I'm guilty on this one. Please, can you share a few tips on how you try to balance work time, rest time, and family time?
That's an interesting question, especially because of the mention of the word balance. I don't know, but I'm going to share. I'm known for just sharing what I believe. I think that balance is a mirage for a lot of people. I mean, like me. I mean, that's what I have come to see. What I generally really place an eye on is on making sure that I am able to read the season. There are seasons, there'll be times when your work becomes really challenging. I mean, if you were launching something new, if you were starting a new job, if you were, there are many things, that could switch up your seasons. So for me, I try to read the season and go with that season and what it represents, because there'll be times when family really is like the all in all and can take preeminence, over everything else. But there are times when it's a season of work where certain other things are sacrificed for that to happen. And I want to use this opportunity to say a shout out to my family, nuclear and extended, because a lot of people see the icon, a lot of people see the person being celebrated, but forget that there are people at the back end that are daily paying sacrifices for that person to be able to do the work that they do the way they do it. So that is one thing I'm going to say. But I would say that I'm also one person that puts structure into structure and healthy boundaries around me that helps me, even in very peak season, to be able to spend time with family and have fun. One key thing I do is I always go on vacation. And when I'm on vacation, my laptop doesn't come with me. I let my head down and I have crazy fun, like a lot of fun with my family. I also have structure around making sure that I spend time with my family. So for example, once a month, every month, I go out with my child, we call that mommy and me day. For the whole of the day, we spend time together. So that allows us to bond and we do fun stuff that he likes and things like that. So there is that structure. And then there are boundaries as well. So for example, I would not set up a meeting in the weekends, except it's an emergency. And something that I absolutely could not do during the week that was absolutely necessary. I generally would turn down meetings in the weekend, and this also helps me, relax and rest and do some self-care, like have that hair made, get the nails done, and just maybe even while away time watching TV with my family and just enjoying my time with them. So those would be my take. That would be my take on it. The fact that one, I respect seasons. There'll be seasons that are more demanding than the rest. And then I create boundaries and structure. I also seek and I get a lot of support. So in my household, for example, I have domestic staff helping me. So I am not trying to be a superwoman by any chance. I'm leveraging, what I have to be able to create help for myself, because there's a lot of work women need to do anyway, anyhow you want to put it. So I want to make sure that I'm still able to live a full life. And when I'm 60, 70, that I can look back and say, my child didn't grow up on me without realizing what his favorite color was, or what he enjoyed and didn't like, so I would have identified in his life and been able to, as much as possible in those very critical times in my family's life, and enjoy them, and allow them enjoy me as well.
Wow, this is awesome. Like, personally, I've learned so much. Sure that 1,001 people out there. And the beautiful thing about interviews is that they are timeless. So people would always, year after year, be able to refer back to these things. And even generations unborn will learn from this thing. This particular question and the answer you gave is very special to my heart as an individual. And I'm not talking as an organization right now, because this balancing thing is like something I personally struggle with at some point. And like I can be a workaholic and work because I work from home. So I can, when you close from work at the office, you know that you close by 5 p.m. and you are going back home. But working from home, you are in your house. Sometimes they're like, have you had breakfast? I work from morning till throughout the night. And then I say, oh my God, I look outside, it's night already. So like what you said, some seasons will be more busy. You have to focus on work at some point, and then family, depending on the seasons, and then structure, and then boundaries. Thank you so much for sharing this. Yeah, what does success mean to you?
Success. That's a very, very difficult word for me. I mean, it depends on what angle of my life, because I mean, our lives are multifaceted. I'm not going to think about success just from a career perspective, but success also from a family perspective. I think success for me is being able to look back and say that I have lived. For me, that's success.
Wow.
Yes, just to have lived. I was here, I have lived. And because living is different from, existing. Yes, I'm one person that has enjoyed living in passion, in a place of passion. And I look back and I say to myself, I won't be a lonely old woman. And that's for me is a huge thing, because that means that I will always have someone in every part of the world that I go to, or that I eventually have my life ending at, that would definitely be in my corner, and that I will have people who genuinely love me be around me. I think that for me is success, just being able to know that I have lived. And living for me isn't just living for my nuclear family. I mean, that's a given. I will be there for my husband, break a leg for him. My child doesn't need to, I mean, I would do anything for them. My mother, my father, my cousins, I will be there for them. But far past that, life is more than just living for the people who share a family tree with you, or the people who, are in your immediate space. So for me, living and success, is very tied to being able to do more for other people and being able to impact other people's lives. And just knowing that someone had a better day because I smiled at them, that's success. Someone had a better day because what I shared helped them get a work opportunity that changed their lives. That is success for me, just living.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you. I actually jotted some things that you said. Let me be sincere. I'm going to quote you if I want to use them on a post or something. Please briefly tell us something that we do not know about Confidence Staveley. I know you've told us a truckload of things already.
Uh-huh.
So any other thing
Okay.
you think we don't know?
Okay. I mean, I can share some fun facts.
Okay.
Maybe the first one is the fact that I don't like coffee, for the same
Oh,
reason people who like it,
yeah.
which is the aroma of coffee. Oh my God, I don't like coffee for that. And it's ridiculous because a lot of people like coffee for the aroma. So sorry
Yeah.
guys, if you're a coffee lover, this is just
I have
me
a
sharing.
partner. Yeah, I don't like
uh,
coffee.
Good. And there's another one I want to share. Okay, so okay, so for me as well, aside not liking coffee, I don't want to use the word extremist, but I am an extremist with sleep. So I'm either sleeping very well or not sleeping at all. I can go 48 hours without sleep. All I will need is, and I won't have eye bags. There will be no sign that I have not slept. All I need is continuous flow of activity and problems to solve, and water. Water is like coffee for me. Water keeps me going. So once I'm hydrated, there is no stopping me. I'm just going on. But that's not to say I love my sleep a lot and I sleep well very often. I mean, we're talking about seasons here as well. So when it's off peak season, definitely I have good rest. I don't know how to take 30 minutes or 50 seconds naps. I take 2 hours naps if I need to nap, you know. I have my 7 hours of sleep at night if I need to sleep. I don't know how to do 2 hours of sleep. And if I have the option between picking 2 hours of sleep or no sleep, best believe I'll go for no sleep. I stay agile and keep going, and you will have no clue. I don't have eye bags. I have my bottle of water by my side every time, and I will just keep going. I won't snooze. So maybe that's another fun fact. I also am very big on I don't like clutter. So I like open spaces. I like spaces that are clean and tidy and arranged. I don't like clutter at all. I like open spaces. I like white walls. That's a thing for me. I think that I found out after retrospecting quite a while last year, again, talking about self-awareness, that maybe the reason I like clear spaces also it helps my creativity. So not only does clutter spaces mess up my mind in terms of my mood, but also messes up my mind in terms of how much I'm able to create in those kind of spaces. So physical clutter is a no-no for me.
Yeah, wow. So I think I just found a twin soul right now, because majority of the things you mentioned, from coffee to especially this clutter thing, like at some point I was feeling like, am I overdoing this thing? Like if I come to the house and the table is filled and there's like everywhere is not arranged, I won't be able to work. People will be like, just go and work quietly. We'll do it. I'll be like, no, I have to clear everywhere before I can work. I won't function. So at least now I know that I'm not weird, right? It's something that happened. Okay. Wow. I totally enjoyed the entire interview, and I'm sure that our team members, because our team members will review first before we now share with the world. I'm sure that everyone will be giggling throughout and learning so much. I'm so happy how we combined both the part where we joked and the part where we learned so much, because life is about the balance, like we said earlier. Let's go a little. Okay. Any short story behind the name Sissy Ned?
Okay, so I think the name CCNet came from also a stereotype. A lot of girls have been programmed by what people said around them to believe that women in tech should look a certain way. I mean, you must be nerdy. And nerdy means you have to wear some really thick glasses. If you're not wearing those thick glasses, maybe wear boy clothes, liking jewelry. Ew, that's for people that are outside of this industry, tech girls shouldn't be that way. Oh, makeup. That's for lazy girls that don't know anything about tech, right? So for me, I wanted to show girls that you can be your true femininity and power of being in your feminine energy and still be able to thrive anywhere. So the term CC means young, vibrant lady, while the nerd also speaks to that stereotype of people being able to thrive in tech because they're a nerd and look at a certain way. So I'm trying to say I am the chic version of what you've always thought a nerd should look like. That means I exist and people like me exist. So for me, it's truly channeling my feminine energy, because I would come as a woman. If I was given 10 times to come to this world, best believe I'll be a woman. I never want to be a man. And I want to truly show that in my socials and inspire people to live fully. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being that lady who is tomboyish. There's absolutely nothing wrong. We can exist in different flavors as women in tech or people in tech in general, right? Many flavors of us. But I'm just saying, if your flavor is wearing makeup, there's nothing wrong with you. If your flavor is laying back your hair, there's nothing wrong with you. If your flavor is having your hair long braids that touches your waist, you can still be competent in tech. That's exactly what my brand is saying.
Yeah, I really love that, because I know that in school, when we see women in engineering or women in courses that like tagged for men alone, you now see the women begin to dress like men. You now see that they don't really like want to wear skirt, they don't want to do makeup, they're not behaving like men. So what's the point? We are not saying become a man because you are in a field that is dominated by men. So I really get it right now, and that's so enlightening. That's so like beautiful. I like the name. I like the inspiration behind the name. It's loaded on its own. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, let's go a little poetic. This is the last but not the least question, but I'm just wishing we could go on and on, but we really have to like stop at this point. So let's go a little poetic. If poetry was a rainbow and you have to pick a choice of just one color in that palette, what would that be and why? So this is like plenty grammar, and I just simply say, what's your favorite color?
Okay, so maybe just to put it out there, my favorite color is not the rainbow, it's black. But but my
What
next
we need, are the third person that is telling us black. Like the series of women we've interviewed for this edition,
yeah,
black, black. Okay,
black.
please
It,
why black.
it's been that color for a long time. It was so bad that when I was getting married, my parents had to beg me not to wear a black wedding dress. So you know what happened? I've been, trying to stay away from black for major events, but on my birthday last year, I wore black, for a major thing. So, but again, that has my favorite color for more than 2 decades now. But if I was talking about my next favorite color, it would be, that is on the rainbow. It would be green. I love green a lot. Green for me signifies growth. It signifies being one with nature. There's nothing as peaceful and as inspiring as nature. Anyhow you want to look at it, just taking a walk in a park alone is very inspiring for ideas. It can spark up your creative mind. So I love the earthy feel of green, the nature, the way it's, for me, it's significant growth and new beginnings, and the fact that, I mean, there should always be an infinite number of new beginnings in your life whenever you choose to have them, no matter the age you are in. So green feels new and young to me every time. So I love the color quite a lot, and it suits me, by the way.
And yeah, like I just wanted to say that now. So we didn't make mistake by saying your impact, your personality are evergreen. So yeah.
Yeah.